Welcome into the Crypto Bunker podcast. Today, let's talk about where we are in the markets. Let's talk about the macro. Let's look at some charts. I hope to give you guys a unique perspective, not a pump. This is not a pump channel, not someone that is going to give you, just, hey, we're bullish because the president did this, or we're bullish because the president did that. Yes, the Bitcoin reserve was announced last night, which was kind of preemptive. It's kind of happened faster than I think people thought. I think a lot of people thought it was going to happen today at the Digital Assets Summit at the White House. The White House press briefing was kind of awkward. There was probably like 50 people around this big area, and basically just people praising Trump. It's sort of weird. I think Trump almost like explicitly tells people that he likes to be, um, you know, um, praised. It's just kind of obvious. Like every time David Sachs talks, it seems that he's like praising President Trump, and that's kind of like the only thing that matters. It's very strange. It's very cringe. I thought the whole thing was cringe. I thought the pretty much everything that the administration has done around crypto to me has been very cringy. And I understand that like a lot of people that are in crypto are very sensitive and emotional, and they're sort of like all in on this stuff, right? So they don't really want to hear, this type of bearish talk. I get it. I get it. But people, you have to be realistic about where we're at in the cycle, because you're going to look back and you're going to say, oh man, um, you know, I guess if I would have known, right? I mean, at this point, we're pretty much at the point where it's too late. I would say to sell anything. I mean, I'm not, none of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I do think I could be a financial advisor. I do manage another person's retirement account pretty successfully, but that's mainly because I use Hedgeye as a process. I think Keith McCullough and the Hedgeye process is the best in the game. He is a very cocky person. I think he deserves to be. He's very accurate. He calls every crash because he understands when we're going into a deflationary and a slowing growth mode. And that's where we're going into now. So basically, Bitcoin is the only time that Bitcoin doesn't do well is in a quad four environment. So we're in a quad four environment. We basically went into quad four in February, and that's kind of when Bitcoin crashed, was like the beginning of February. And that's a good thing. Like long term, we want Bitcoin to be a macro asset. It has to take its hits. It can't just go up forever. It's a macro asset, which means that it trades with other macro assets like, tech stocks and things like that. But at this point, I think Bitcoin is has topped for, you could probably say for the cycle. It doesn't need to be looked at as cycles anymore. I think the 4-year cycle is a scam. I think it just happens to be the way that it worked out before. Um, but if you look at this chart pattern, to me, it's very bearish. It's just sort of this flat structure with two peaks and then a drop out the bottom. And now we have a wedge coming up. And so usually what happens in these, which I covered, in the 2022 cycle, was basically when you crash through a key level like this, you then basically take that and you put it down here. So we're about to crash through this. Now we'd have to close pretty significantly down, I think, for this to happen. But I think at this point there's no more catalysts for Bitcoin. I think that to fill this gap down here, basically, which I think is a CME gap, essentially, would take us to around 73,000 because that is what Bitcoin likes to do. It likes to fill the gaps. And that's okay. That's not going to kill anybody. And I think that overall, if we did go down, this would basically be if we have the measured target to, let's say, 69,000, that'd be about a 36% correction. At that point, I think, we can say that is a significant correction. It's not a bear market correction. It could be a bull market still. But it's just that it is topped for, for the time being. I think we're basically looking at the same thing with ETH. This is actually the Nasdaq chart from back in the day, actually really early days, like beginning when the Nasdaq even launched, which I think is pretty crazy because I think these are similar. It's not going to be exact, but we have these two peaks and then a big crash and then an accumulation, kind of a triple top there, and then a crash through. And we basically have this same pattern where we bottom at that area there on the Nasdaq. You can see it's this pattern here. It's the same exact pattern here for ETH. So I do think that this is the target for ETH right now. We can also look on ETH for the same thing basically when we fell at the bottom. Um, and then let's see if we can draw that again. If we fall out the bottom again, it basically ends up being the same target. With ETH, we barely have really done much here in terms of being able to even have it's just it's dead. I mean, it's just completely dead. It doesn't trade well. It's very hard to even say what this trading pattern is. It's not even really a wedge, but you could say basically, I don't really know even how to draw with it because it's just so bad. I am accumulating ETH. I have been, I will be into the future. Probably for my plan is for the next like 3 or 4 years. Actually, yeah, about 4 or 5 years. To accumulate, try to buy at least like $300 a month, which is a pretty hefty amount actually, if you think about it. And I'm going to give that a shot. But I'm also going to be saving money at the same time. I'm going to be trying to put away like $200 in USDC, and just having that as like a long-term savings for just personal savings. Um, because I believe in the space long term. I believe in Ethereum, honestly, more than I believe in Bitcoin, which is weird, right, for people to think or say or whatever. But yeah, and someone is definitely going to be protecting this trend line at this point. But I don't think they'll be able to be protecting it for too much longer. Let's just talk macro for a minute, while we look at the Bitcoin chart. Let's look at it on the weekly time frame. And in fact, yeah, let's just erase everything here. Let's look at some reversal indicators. I did bring these up before, but in case you're new to the channel, we did have a reversal on the weekly, but we had many reversals on the monthly. So this is very rare. Actually, it's never happened where Bitcoin gets a basically a candlestick reversal system as well as a reversal indicator. And that was the top. I mean, it was, basically December. So that did call the top, and it really always does for Bitcoin, except basically in 2017, we had a few reversal indicators, but that was really before the charts, were mature. At this point, they are more mature. This could be a mid-cycle sort of situation. I don't like I said before, I don't really think these cycles necessarily exist anymore. I do think we could still be looking at a more significant top, but I also think that the Trump presidency attaching itself to Bitcoin, and to crypto at this point, could be bad, actually. If the Trump presidency is not successful, everything kind of hinges on, Trump. He launched the meme coin, which was actually the Pico top. If you look back at the chart, we can look at the Solana chart as well. That was a Pico top on Solana. Basically, yeah, that was when he launched the meme coin. We could look at it even on the weekly. So yeah, it was January 13th. And when he launched that, that was the top also for Bitcoin. We could even look at it on the daily. I believe it was exact top. I could be wrong. But no, it was so January 20th. So actually, yeah, that was the meme coin launch. And let's look at Solana on that day. That was the meme coin launch. It was basically the 19th at night, and then Bitcoin topped the next day. And so we did actually print a candlestick reversal on that. So definitely people sold into that news, which makes total sense. You get a new high, everyone gets sucked in, and then it gets just completely destroyed from there. So from that position, we basically had a 57% correction. I think for Solana, for the targets here, we're going to be looking at probably around $100, which would put us, let's see, down about a 67% correction or so. Um, so let's see. So yeah, if we take this measured move and we go down from there, it takes us to about 102. So you could say maybe a 64% correction. Not totally unseen in the crypto market and history. We do have a few examples. I think ETH, um, in terms of Ethereum, I believe was down, a significant amount. Let's see what it was down here. Yeah, it was about 61% for Ethereum in this bull market. But honestly, I think what we need to understand about this bull market was that this move here basically should have never happened. And the only reason it happened was because Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX and the Three Arrows Capital guys were sort of scamming the market higher. We had the Terra Luna scam. We had a lot of scams that like actually helped the market go higher, and they had to push the collateral up. And basically, they used customer funds during this entire time to, they basically, looted the farm um, to pump the price from there to there. And they really sucked everything in. They short squeezed people up, even probably on this move. And the cycle truly probably should have ended there. We never had a blow off top in Ethereum this cycle, or whatever you want to call this. But honestly, I think that's bullish. But look at how much we've broken that trend line. You can't simply break this Ethereum trend line and be okay with it. I really think 1500 at minimum will be the correction that we're going to see. I would be shocked if we went below 1,000. I could think the lowest we could go is probably around that 1,300 level because that's the old all-time high in a complete washout of the entire space. I think it'd be embarrassing. I think a lot of people would sell as sort of like a capitulation, disbelief sort of moment. And I think that that's honestly what the institutions, Wall Street, big banks, big players, big whales, I think that's what they will and want to create at this point. I think that we can see, the cards are on the table, and all of the cards are on the table now for crypto until like end of July, early August. Okay, and that's when Trump said he wants the stablecoin legislation on his desk is by the end of July. So essentially, from now until then, what we're going to learn is probably only going to be bearish from here on out. It's going to be like, oh, Abu Dhabi, who we thought bought, 500 billion of Bitcoin, they actually sold, 500 billion in quarter one, right? Or, oh, Goldman Sachs bought 2 billion of Bitcoin. Well, actually, they're short 2 billion of Bitcoin now in quarter two or whatever. Because like we're getting those end of quarter reports that were bullish, they're just going to be bearish because price is reflexive. So it's only going to get worse, as time goes on, basically from here on out. So, not trying to be the bearer of bad news, just trying to be realistic. I am. Um, okay, so basically, let's get back to screen here. So sorry about that pause there. But yeah, so basically now at this point, Bitcoin does not have any more catalysts. Now we do know in the future that there will be more, probably, but like states buying in and things like that. But honestly, like I said, when the price going down is not good for public relations for these states trying to buy Bitcoin. I think basically the main thing the states are going to do is they're going to say, hey, we're going to accept your taxes in Bitcoin if you want to pay your taxes in Bitcoin. Um, but other than that, I don't really see them doing anything else. I also read the room in terms of like there's a lot of people who are sort of like angry at the price going down, which is not a good sign for the price going up because these people are sort of um, not in a good headspace. The bulls, at least, not in a good headspace. People like Scott Melker, Wolf of Wall Street. I listened to his podcast today. Sort of offensive, actually. Calling people morons and idiots and gamblers and degenerates who were selling Bitcoin. So that's really strange. Um, sorry that I'm protecting my hard-earned capital. Um, because I know it's a quad four. I apologize for that. I guess that makes me an idiot for selling higher than you or whatever. And then I don't understand it. But this is where we're at with Bitcoin. I basically just follow this signal. There's no ego involved. So yeah, this has nothing to do with like what I think besides, I mean, yeah, I do have opinions. But this is the main thing I follow. If this said bullish, I would try to have a more bullish opinion because there can be bullish opinions, but the signal, tells the story. And we obviously see that the low end is around 80K for Bitcoin right now. It's a lot lower. The low end is a lot lower than where we're at now. So it's probably around, yeah, 80K. Um, so yeah, don't be surprised in a low liquidity weekend for the price to continue to fall. I think at this point, we're pretty close to breaking this trend. If we do break it, I think 80K is the next stop, but pretty quickly, too. Could be down, 10% a day. I'm not sure if it will do that because there's not enough volume necessarily, but it could do that today, I guess. But it's a Friday. I mean, it'd be down like 12% in a day. So that's high. I do think in terms of macro, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, came out and said, hey, we want slowing growth. We want to kind of wreck the economy a little bit. He didn't say that exactly, but he basically said, yeah, we want to he said I think he said it could be a tough like period for growth for like in the short term because they are trying to reset the economy and it's not going to be easy. I mean, this has never really been done. People don't understand maybe, or they might understand. I think a lot of people do understand the scam of the system, but when the scam is up, which Trump is actually trying to stop the scam in some ways. I mean, he is kind of scamming in other ways, right? But there's a deeper sort of darker things that are happening with the Trump ecosystem. So I definitely acknowledge that. But he, in some ways, is trying to at least stop the sort of, at least Scott Bessent is, I don't know, and Trump, you could say as well, is trying to stop the scam of like the government printing a ton of money, the government employing a ton of people, the government being the main sort of um, creator or funder of the economy, um, which is, I think, probably the right thing. I think we do need to be careful about deregulation. We need to be careful about not taxing the rich because there is such a massive wealth gap. But the point is to have more onshoring, reduce income tax, potentially have, maybe in the future some kind of stimulus checks, to give back to the lower 50% of Americans. Because there was a stat that came out about the Biden administration, which said the top 10% of Americans in terms of wealth account for they account for about 50% of the spending in the economy and the GDP in the US. 50%. That's insane. Um, that's pretty crazy. Um, so yeah, basically, I think that the macro headwinds are strong. And Bitcoin was a good play on inflation and growth. But now the Trump administration is going to try to reset all that. So it's going to be a really great opportunity to accumulate, to buy, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and to yeah, just try to stay solvent, try to pay off your debts, try to reset your own self and your own system. Not financial advice, but going into a recession, which I think we will go into. Um, so that we can reset the economy. I think we're looking at, let's actually look back and see if we can look at um, the S&P 500. We can actually just take a look at that, which I think would be a good thing to check out, or the Nasdaq, doesn't matter. So yeah, in terms of this, we just look at the moving averages, kind of just see where we're at. We do have, bearish moving averages obviously coming down, which is pretty rare, but it happened in July. This correction actually is less than July at this point. It's pretty similar, straight down, but not as big. So there's always a chance we could bounce from here. I could be completely wrong, but I actually think they want more pain, because right now Powell is basically saying, "Hey, we're not going to cut rates. This isn't that bad." So like, but they want to support markets, if they're, but this took this whole cycle from the top to the bottom took about, it was less than a year. So we could take this 301 days and let's just theoretically say that that's how long it's going to take, for in terms of this, we could be looking at bottoming in the late winter of next year, which I think like wouldn't be that bad, for anybody. And then I think 2026 sets up to be a pretty good year, and then 2027 is when we really ramp it up. Because I'm guessing that in 2026, or at least, by maybe the fall, we might be starting to talk about quantitative easing. And then once that starts, usually have about a year and a half for that to work through the system. So if it starts in the fall of 2025, then we're talking about a year and a half from then. So let's just map that out. Let's say it starts in November, and then we have maybe, let's see, 540 days there. So yeah, then we're looking at a top potential, which would be about December 2027. And that feels right to me. It does depend on the midterms, but honestly, the midterms like and the markets are not as important. If anything, it could be a good thing if the Democrats win and then Trump can't be, a bull in a china shop. messing things up as much as he is right now. So the market really doesn't love what's going on right now. I will say during this crash, we never really closed like too far below the 20. Like we had this massive green candle. We are now at that same level as we were before on the Qs. I don't really think you can go there twice and get away with it. I will say, it just doesn't seem to be, in 2018 we came below that. We even came below this level. So I think, and here we almost came to the 200. Here we came to the 200. So I think a good medium would be in order. If we're looking at, the percent correction, I could see it, being like a 20% correction. I think that would be like pretty healthy. It wouldn't be that bad. This was like a 25% maybe correction. People think of it as like a bigger correction. It really wasn't. Oh, sorry. It was like 36 for the Nasdaq. My bad. That was a full bear market for the Nas. Um, but yeah, 20%, like that's like sort of normal. This was, a lot of these are like 20% corrections. Obviously, this was a full bear. I'm not sure how bad it will get. I think at the end of the day, like it's kind of a wild card, and we live in a wild time. There's nothing that we can really, that's why like we have to be sure that we're being fiscally responsible. We're not gambling our net worth away completely because it never works out. Because then you always end up just going into more debt to buy more risk assets, and then the risk assets go down, and then you have to pay the debt off and you sell at a loss. It just doesn't work out. So you have to make sure that you're debt free, that you're saving dollars, as well as dollar cost averaging slowly into risk assets, taking a long-term time horizon. So like take like a 5-year time horizon, dollar cost average into it. Maybe buy a service like Hedgeye, Crypto Tracker. It's only like $15 a month. It's certainly better than, it's certainly more worthwhile than buying like YouTube Premium or Spotify or something, right? So maybe take one of those off, give Hedgeye a try, and just basically what you do is you just sell when it says bearish and buy when it's bullish, and you can even time it with their buy and sell if you're more of an active trader. Um, but it's not that hard. I mean, they got me out. They continue to do well. They've really knocked the ball out of the park. So hopefully you guys got something out of the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.